Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we are very excited to have a brilliant middle grade horror writer, Malinenko, on today. Welcome, Allie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Ooh, very brilliant. So we have Broken Dolls
Yep,
and Ghost Girl.
yep, in this appearing house.
And Adam said I've read Broken Dolls, but he said he was scared as shit by the other two.
I mean, they are truly scary books, which is one of the things that I can't wait to talk about is how scary middle grade can be.
Yeah, because I'm reading Broken Dolls and I'm like, Annabelle comes downstairs and I'm like, this shit is really scary. And she's looking at me like, seriously? I'm like, no, it's like genuinely scary. Like I'm surprised this is an adult, but okay. It's very
It's a
good.
wonderful compliment, so thank you.
Well, now I was saying to Adam, I was like, you have on Broken Dolls, I'm like, Stephen King has blurbed the book for you.
He has.
And
he
I was
has.
like,
It's incredible.
shit. I was like, I said, like, does he have like a team of people or does he personally do it? And he's like, no, he personally does it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, she's like, Ellie just basically
It just
approached him and was like, hey.
Well, he didn't he comment on like your scary doll pictures?
So the way the whole Stephen King thing happened, which was kind of incredible, is I was on another podcast called Talking Scared with Neil
Oh,
Oh yeah,
McRobert.
with
yeah.
Neil.
Okay. So I was on that with Nat Cassidy and Neil and I, and we did an It episode. And we were talking about the book, and we wound up discussing the, infamous scene in It
Yes.
that
Yes.
everybody has feelings about.
Yes.
And I tried to handle as nuanced as humanly possible. And King wound up listening to it, and he liked what I said and the way I talked about that scene and why I didn't interpret it the way a lot of people interpret it. And then he wound up following me on social media, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was. I was like, what's happening?
You were bruised for weeks from pitching yourself.
100%. I still am. And then he, I was talking about Broken Dolls, and he was like, oh, I love the title. And then he was like, oh, I love the cover. Can you send me a copy of the book? So
Why?
my publisher did. And it's funny, actually, because I'm currently sitting at my writing desk, and I have tacked up on my wall an email from him. And it's just three words, and it just says, "This is good." And it's when he was reading
Well, that's
Broken Dolls.
awesome.
Oh my God.
And every time I feel real bad about my writing, I look at that and I'm like, okay, like
This is good.
King thought it was good. We can do this. We can get through whatever book we're working on now. So yes, that's how. And then he blurbed it, which was incredible. And yeah, that's how that happened. It was.
Well, I mean,
bonkers.
he, coming from the fact that everyone labels him as like the king of horror for everything.
Mhm.
And, we've
Sure.
gone to, I shouldn't say just labels, like he is. I'm not saying
Mhm.
it in a way of dismissive. I'm
Yeah.
saying like, I don't think there's anyone that wouldn't label him, even if they don't read the horror genre, is what I
Yeah.
meant.
Whether it's movies and horror media, Stephen King's name.
Yes, that's
So-
and I think it's like with him, it's like if you like, even if you ask someone who isn't an avid reader, like, do you know
That's
who
what I
Stephen
meant.
King is? They're gonna be like, yeah, I know who Stephen King is.
Exactly. That's what I meant. So, but for the people that have like read his works and go into everything, and then to see the amount that he pumps out and everything, to have time to read a book and blurb it for you, like it really speaks to the talent that you have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
So-
appreciate that. I just, yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Well, I wanted to say, I was reading a thread that you recently commented on that said basically like, writers, especially female writers, are writing the books that they wish they had growing up. Essentially was the thing. And you were like, that's every book that I've written. And, reading all three of these books in different ways, kind of speak to different experiences that children or middle graders sometimes have. And I just think, like, for myself, I know even reading them, it almost made me feel like a kid again and made me wish I had these books when I was a kid. And like, I just wanted to hear like some of that, like, as you're writing, like, for you to acknowledge that in the thread, it's like, is that going into what you're writing when you're actually writing it? Or is that something when you look back, you're like, I realize that?
I think it's something that I'm actively thinking about when I'm writing it, because I very much write my stories. Like, I can't write for an audience that I don't know, but I very much write my stories for like 11 and 12-year-old Allie. Like for the kid that I was who didn't have middle because I'm elderly. Growing up, like, middle grade didn't really exist. Like, you went from reading kids' books to reading inappropriate adult books. Like, I went directly from, like, Judy Blume to, like, VC Andrews,
I
and
was
let me
gonna
tell you
Yeah.
say, I feel like VC Andrews is gonna come up. It always does for our generation at some point.
That's
Yeah.
though.
it's so funny too because I have a sister that's 7 years older than me who's a huge horror fan, and the way I wound up reading Stephen King at a young age is because I would steal, like, I would read, like, a couple pages off of like, from her books that I would sneak off the shelf, but I couldn't keep them around me because if my mom saw me reading Stephen King, she would be horrified, and yet this is the same woman that let me read VC Andrews, and I'm like, "Mom, did you know what was in those books?" They sure didn't. They were like, "Yeah, yeah, some kids in an attic, not a problem."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, they're doing some things up there
Oh,
too.
yes,
They
they are.
sure were,
Yes,
and I
they
was
are.
sure reading about them in 4th grade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Adam goes, when I was reading the book, he was like, "Isn't it so good?" He's like, "I would have read the shit out of that."
Yeah.
And when I was like, that would have been my favorite book.
Yep.
Aw.
And it's funny because, every time we talk to people, it always comes up every single time, Goosebumps, right? And then every single time we're like, we need like a new series and something like
Mhm.
that for people to relate to now. I always share that my favorite book was Night of the Living Dummy
For Goosebumps,
for
yeah.
Goosebumps. So I feel like with Broken Dolls, like you nailed it for me. Modern day, but also nostalgic, like that 11, 12, and it just was like, okay, like I'm creeped out again. Like this is like what I wanted. So I feel like you're a great, like if you're a listener and you loved Goosebumps and you want to feel that feeling again, read these books. If you want your kids to do that, read these
Mhm.
books.
That's very cool and also, like, beyond flattering because I've never actually read a Goosebumps because 'cause I'm elderly.
What
By the
are we
time
talking about here?
Goosebumps
Are you saying like a geriatric millennial?
I mean, I'm 47, so,
Yeah, okay.
We'll be
I'm elder
42, so we're not far.
I mean, yes, but you would have been right smack dab for Goosebumps,
Yes.
though.
Yes.
So I was just old enough that I was like, those books are for little kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I read
Fear
grown-up
Street
books
Fear Street
now.
was around. Were you not a Fear Street reader?
I wasn't. You know what I did read when I was younger that I would say definitely got me, which was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yeah.
Those stories, and the illustrations
The
especially.
illustrations, yes.
It's so funny.
Gosh.
I teach 5th grade, so I'm right in your demographic where I hand your books to kids all the time. Although we'll talk about it a little later, the politics is increasingly making that difficult, which is ridiculous. Um,
Which is why we're going to start something outside
yes,
of
but I'm
school.
anyway. But yeah,
Because it's too hard to contend with that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I totally get it. I totally get that. It's got to
yeah.
be the worst uphill battle
We have
that
to get
exists.
everything approved, and I have a distinct feeling they don't actually read them in the first place, but
No, they don't.
you have like actual human beings in your books and they're not a fan of that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get into some of those themes that make her talk about human beings too, which I think is great. Like one of the things, just really quick before it leaves my brain, because you know
Mhm.
how I work here,
yes.
you deal with a lot of grief of the grandpa passing in Broken Dolls and the love. And I just felt
Mhm.
like that is so important because at this stage, and I like I'm knocking on some kind of wood here,
Yeah.
that, we have a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old. It's like both of her, all of her grandparents are alive. But sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Because they
like,
are older grandparents,
yeah.
you
And it's
know.
like having those discussions of, I know that that's what it's going to be like. Like my dad is such an involved grandfather
Mhm.
and my mom is such an involved grandmother that it's going to be this whole, the way that you describe in your book here. And I just think like, especially like taking the deep feelings and the sadness and the way that she's like talking to grandpa in her head and remembering his words all the way through the very end where she really kind of like has some events that happen that allow her to like finally process her grief after such a long time. And I feel like it's probably an experience because Adam, you regularly have between 3 and 4 students every year that lose a grandparent.
We actually even like, not going into any great detail, but we had a late registration where school starts for me this week. It is a kid that moved up to Pennsylvania from Maryland. One of their parents completed suicide and the kid doesn't know it. And so we're kind of going into the school year not quite knowing what that's going to look like for them. So yeah, like grief and anything that kind of talks about that is always something that helps. But, yeah, we deal with that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I started writing Broken Dolls about 3 years after my father passed away. And I was in a place where I was like, okay, I'm ready to talk about what it feels like to lose someone, because this was, I mean, I lost my grandfather when I was 6.
Me
So I
too.
barely even
Me
remember
too.
that, I was very young, and my other grandparents didn't pass away until I was much older. So losing my dad was profound. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to talk about what it is to experience grief. And I want to talk about, I want to be able to write something for kids who go through these experiences,
Right.
because I think it's one of those things that we're just not great at talking about. And I do think that books serve as a wonderful
Yeah.
object for people to have these conversations, because you can talk about the story and therefore talk about grief without directly talking about grief. And
Yeah.
then while I was writing Broken Dolls, my mother unexpectedly passed away.
I'm sorry.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
So it was a lot. So this is probably the rawest thing I've ever written, and absolutely houses every emotion that I went through in that whole process.
Wow.
And I really do hope that I do hope it is a vehicle for kids to see themselves if
Yeah.
they need that. And I also, like I do with all my books, I hope it's an opportunity for kids who have been through it to see themselves, but also for kids who haven't,
Mm.
Right.
see
Right.
their friends who may have, or to
Yeah.
just have that
Right.
experience of what it is to lose someone.
Yeah. I feel like, you're saying it's at your most raw and whatnot, but I still feel like it's very appropriate. Like there's nothing that's
Hmm.
you get the point across and the feeling without being like,
Dwelling in that grief or
yes,
sadness.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
right.
it's like
That's something
when
I didn't want.
when you're a kid in that age, like you can't be like, you're not 6 or 7, you're not expected to just like, blow tears and just like have a meltdown. You're not an adult. So it's like you're kind of in this age where what are you supposed to talk about? How do you express and process these things? And it's interesting, like I said, like one of my well, I had a grandmother and a grandfather that both passed when I was 6. And I was reading your book and I was like, I'm sad that I missed out on those moments with them, but I'm almost like, in a way, like grateful I didn't have to be attached and process it and have the love that, you know,
Yeah. It's
it's a
double.
weird,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a, grief obviously is just a later expression of love.
Complicated.
And so
Yes. Yes, it
it's
is.
very like, man, which one do you want? To have never loved them and you don't have to go
Hmm.
through it or yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the way I always when I talk about grief, like it for me, grief is just it's all the love you don't know where to put anymore.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's still the same
Absolutely.
love. It's just now you can't put it into the person because they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's figuring out where that's gonna go. Like where is it gonna live? And sometimes it stays with you, and sometimes you scream into the universe and it goes out there.
Yeah. You know, to it it's funny. It made me think when I was reading this book too, and this is, not exactly the grief thing, but it makes me think about my grandmother because in the room that I always stayed in when we went to visit my grandmother who lived alone in Tennessee, she had Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy doll sitting
Oh
in there.
Lord.
It was always this weird mixture of like comfort, and I know I'm at my grandmother's house, and abject terror because they scared the hell out of me.
So her
But I
writing
also,
this,
yes,
there's a scene in here
yes,
where Raggedy Ann terrorizes
yep.
you.
So I was like, I knew it.
I knew it. I knew it wasn't all base. I know.
That's great.
So, were you
Serious.
traumatized by Raggedy Ann as well, or just the inherent creepiness inspired you?
Honestly, the reason that Jangle and Jane is in the book is because I went to go visit my in-laws, and we went to like a flea market, and there was a giant Raggedy Ann doll for sale. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying this." And she's sitting next to me as we speak right now
God.
in a little rocking chair. I'll have to post a photo of her
Yeah,
I
online.
please
love.
do.
I think all of the dolls have actual Miss Abyss is a marionette that's on my shelf. I'm looking at her right now. Yeah, Tasman and Eudora are like the little head is on my
Yeah.
shelf. Yeah, they all have real life components. So they're here in the room with me when I'm
So,
writing.
kids, if you're terrified, just know they're really out there.
So
They're really out there.
okay, I
I
wanna
have
go
them.
into a little bit of a discussion here on the dolls itself because prior to like meeting you on social media and everything, I have long enjoyed fucking with Adam with dolls. Like
There's a long storied history here.
there
Yes.
is. And at first it started out with clowns at
Yep.
consignment stores and I
Hmm.
would buy terrible, creepy
Yes.
clown things
Like framed pictures that were clearly for children's rooms that were just terrifying.
and I would like put them like under the comforter so like when he pulled it back to get onto his pillow
Oh
it'd
my
be right
god.
there
Yep.
or like in a drawer or whatever that he'd go into the bathroom,
Yeah.
whatever. But then I was like,
You
he's
poor
always hated dolls and I was always like I don't want to say required, but like it was
Look, I
like
don't want to say hated dolls because they might be listening.
okay.
Okay. I was a little they made me feel a little
Okay.
uncomfortable.
Well, I always collected porcelain dolls. Like it was like kind of bestowed upon me like this is what you're going to do. So I had so many porcelain dolls and just some beautiful ones that like when my grandparents traveled to Europe like they would like bring me one and my mom would get one. I never had any issues with them. But then when you met my sister-in-law Marisol, she also had a
Like 4 foot tall.
yeah, the one that her mom made her which was like a bride doll that was
Yeah.
like like a kid sister
And
tall.
you'd walk in and it's just right there.
And you were like you hated it. So I
Hmm.
was kind of like, all right, here we go. We're moving into this now. So I went to the community aid, whatever, the mission and bought these baby dolls, took their heads off. I'll have to attach a picture then at some
Yeah.
point and filled them with soil and succulent.
Turn them into planters. Yes.
Three heads for Father's Day. And
Hmm.
you didn't really appreciate it that much. The cleverness, you were kind of like, why'd
Yeah.
you get me plants for Father's Day?
Yeah. That's what I was worried about.
So that I did that, and then now I had one of those porcelain dolls that was in like a full um like dressing gown of like
Mhm.
a
Victorian kind of style.
yeah, and it had a white like bonnet over the head, and
Uh,
it had a porcelain head that had like a nub at the top that you could twist it because it had three faces.
gross.
So it went from sleeping to crying to laughing,
I've seen Puppet Master. I know about that.
and so I mean I had a lot of them, and so now like
Almost
for
every birthday, yeah.
almost every birthday you get a doll.
Uh,
And our
Usually sitting on my passenger side
well
seat
that
when I
our
get it in
friend
my car.
Jamie was at and Jamie's like, "Oh, I want to fuck with Adam. I'm going to get him some for his 40th birthday." So we'll put these pictures up on the pod so that we can
Hmm.
see what was her name? Prudence.
Prudence, yeah.
And then he had Prudence like sitting in my wreaths and like
Hmm.
she was all over the house and
Took Prudence to school to watch over the kids. Sure they were
Lord.
quiet.
So yeah, I mean now we have a good time. But now, Allie, that you've seen when we go to the antique store,
Hmm.
Adam touches all these truly haunted dolls. Like it's not funny anymore.
If they were truly haunted, they would not be for sale. They would be in some museum.
No, I bought sage to spray after like I saged him twice.
I mean, you're better off. You're safe than sorry.
I know.
Is there any stories with your dolls?
Wait a minute
that
now. We're
oh,
running a pre-order campaign
okay.
for Allie to try to get one of these creepy dolls.
Yes.
So if she gets 30 orders before the 30th, then we're shipping her a creepy doll of her choice
Yeah.
from American
Love this.
Daydream.
Or we can do a trade, and if we can get a hat, then we'll send you all the dolls you want. So
Okay, fair enough. That would be great too. But yeah, what's your experience with the creepy dolls?
Fear of dolls growing up. I didn't really have a lot of dolls. I was like much more of a stuffed animal
Okay.
person. You know, I didn't have a ton of dolls. My grandmother used to give me dolls. I didn't particularly like them. They went in the closet after she left. But I never really had a fear of dolls, but I've always found people's fear of dolls fascinating, and I'm a giant fan of the Chucky movies. So,
I
I
am
love
not a
Chucky.
giant fan. I'm a giant baby about Chucky. I don't even like to
Mhm.
look at him.
I have my little Chucky Pop sitting right here on my desk.
Uh-uh.
Love him. Yeah, so I'm a big Chucky fan, and I just thought, I've always found other people's fear of dolls fascinating. And when I started thinking about writing this book, and I knew I wanted to write about grief. And I was thinking about, the way my grandmother used to always give me dolls, and I was like, what would be something that would be passed down? And it just made sense, for my character to have, well, not her, for her little sister to have all of these creepy dolls.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of fun to write. It really was. I mean, considering that I was writing about some tough things during a tough time, it's definitely it was a lot of fun to write. I really enjoyed Kay and Holly and all the dolls.
Yeah. Well, we've visited the idea before that when you're writing a middle grade book, you can't use certain language, you can't do certain
Really
things.
gore.
Yeah. And so you really nicely build the shit out of the suspense. So basically, for listeners that aren't familiar, basically the main character, her grandfather has passed away. They're up visiting, out of the city, up visiting, staying with like her uncle and her mom, and little sister. Is there a 5-year age difference between the main character and the little sister? And they're having this sort of like, you don't want to play with me anymore. And I know, but
Mhm.
I don't really want to play dolls sort of thing. And finally, like the little sister just starts kind of finding all these dolls. I'll put it that way. And like in odd places, like in the ground.
Yeah. The walls.
And she's like having full conversations, but like no one else can hear it. And
Mm.
so, um, and she finds a doll, Holly doll, that looks exactly like
She
her.
doesn't find that
I know.
doll.
I know. Listen, I'm trying to protect the story here.
Okay.
You're
Well,
doing
I
great.
wanna get into the festival that they
Oh,
get
you
this
do?
doll.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Is that a real festival, the Velveeta Festival?
The
It
cheese
The
is.
cheese
festival.
festival,
It's
yeah.
the cheese festival. It is a real festival. So I grew up in the Hudson Valley, which is about an hour north of New York City. And the Hudson Valley is home to Velveeta.
Okay. Wait a minute. We've
That's
been to
where
the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah, but I didn't know about this cheese festival.
We didn't
So
go
the
at the right
cheese
time.
Yeah,
the cheese
we
festival
messed up.
Yeah.
started. I don't know. I was in like middle school, I think, when they started it. And it was like a carnival. You had like a Gravitron and like one
Yeah,
of
the
the
gravitron.
parachute drops and like the swings. Like minor stuff. Not huge like roller coasters or anything. And like a lot of booths. And it was the cheese festival. And because Monroe, New York is the home of Velveeta. And so that's where I decided to set the story because it was a real thing that I went to, and it was weird.
So I felt like they're there at the fair. They run into this sinister
He
magician.
seems sweet and nice. What are you talking about?
He is the prestidigitator.
Yes.
Yes.
And he calls himself, he's the poppet maker, not the puppet maker, the
Ugh.
poppet maker. And
Terrifying word. I don't know why.
yes. And I'm feeling like I'm hearkening back to the scene in Big with like Zoltar.
I love that.
Like that's what it felt like to me. And because eventually they turn around and he's gone. And I'm like, shit. Like that's what
Mhm.
that scene made me feel like.
I love that. That's perfect. That's a
It was
perfect
like so
character.
nostalgic to me. So I was like, I'm glued
Yeah.
because that was, I mean, that really creeped me out as a kid. Like I loved that
Mhm.
movie, but it was like,
And that
Yes.
feel of like the next day when everything,
well, when you see the
when he
cords
goes back
unplugged,
and it's not there. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And it's like, how is
Yeah.
this working? So
Mhm.
like you definitely tap into those vibes. So did you want to talk more about the magician and the puppet maker?
Well, I mean, it definitely sets you up. And I think I know what you mean because like any of those carnivals, part of it as a kid and why as an adult and parent, I don't let my kid ride or don't want them to, is there's this weird sense like you go to an amusement park, you go to Hershey Park or Six Flags, you really feel, even though there's accidents, they're so like rare and it's so professional there. But at a carnival, you're like, these were put together like Legos. There's like this weird like inherent danger that's part of the appeal. And I think
Yes.
the way that you captured that was just so perfect.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad because that is 100% what I was going for. Because those little carnivals do feel like very ragtag and like they show up one day and they're gone the next day and
Uh,
like who are those people? You know, it's just it's weird. It's a very weird feeling.
well, we have the York Fair here, and we took Annabelle and her friend Sophia, and they're like, "Aren't we getting on rides?" And we're like, "No." Like, it's like there was an accident here a few years ago. Like, we're not doing this. But I was like, "Here's $40, get some food, like stick together. We'll meet back here in 2 hours. Like, you girls can walk together, whatever." So we go to like meet up and they're like, "We're in line for these rides.
Ugh.
Can you hold on?" And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, did you even eat? Like, they're like, "Yeah, we were able to buy some tickets." And then Sophia's like, "Yeah, I know a lot of these carnival workers. I just talk to them a lot and they just let me on extra. Like,
Mhm.
we didn't have to
No.
pay." And I'm like, what? I was like, how often are you at
Yeah.
carnivals? Like,
Are they asking you to travel with them? What's happening
yeah,
here?
like,
I don't like this at all.
did not either. And then I was just like, okay, like, note to self, next
Yeah,
time need to be much more specific with what the money needs to be spent
exactly.
on. And they survived. There was no accidents. They had a really good time. But
Side note, I do have a friend whose mother dropped them off at their aunt's house because she decided she was going to go off with the carnies for a few months. And
oh,
like I like that
no, in
happened.
elementary
This
school?
happened like in the yeah, like in the late 90s. Like this was
My god.
you think this
Was
is
she going as like the bearded woman? Like, what was her thing?
um I didn't ask. I think they change what they're doing each day, but this was more like rides and games and stuff. But
Oh my God.
that was definitely in the back of my head while I'm reading this too, like these sections.
I can't say that I've ever wanted to run away and join the circus or the carnival.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's been in my mind.
100% no. Those people are strange.
Like,
I do have to say, like, when I was reading Broken Dolls, having read Ghost Girl and Disappearing House as well, the sort of through line of this, whatever you want to call him, magician, puppet maker, gave me a lot of Principal Scratch feelings
That.
from Ghost Girl. And I'm like, you know what? Just don't trust white men. That's kind of that'll get you that'll help you in most of life. But like I was just like, man, these guys, you gotta watch out. And I
Yeah.
definitely want to get into talking about Principal Scratch later because I'm guessing there was a little bit of inspiration from other things in the world. But looking and knowing that book was written or released at least in 2021, um, when we thought we had escaped a certain second term, and
Sure
now
did.
looking back and we are
Sure
in
did.
the midst of one,
We sure.
just kind of looking at that character and he gives me, let's just say it, he gives me some Trump vibes for sure. Do you look back and you're like, damn?
That's funny. That's funny. Scratch is really Principal Scratch. Well, I will tell you one thing. He wasn't a principal initially. He was initially before my publisher was like, "Yeah, you can't do that. You need to change that." He was a preacher.
I mean, he
ooh.
gives those vibes for sure.
He does give off preacher
Yeah.
vibes because he
Like when
was
that
initially.
scene when he walks in, he's like, "Do you love me?" I'm like, I am
Yes.
so creeped out right now.
So that scene and very much a lot of his character is based on the fact that at the time I started listening to Nick Cave for the first time. So Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds, and he has a song that starts out where he literally says, "Do you love me?" And I was like, "Oh, there it is. There's my bad guy." Like I was listening to it, I was
Ooh.
coming into the subway. But I would listen to it the first time, and there was a song called Tupelo, and it starts out with, like, a crash of thunder, and the song starts, and as I was like, "The book's gonna begin with a storm." Like, I immediately because I had Z in my head for a long time, like, years, like a decade, and I never found a story that she fit in, and as soon as I heard that song, I was like, "This is the story." Like, I immediately knew what I was gonna write about, and it
Like,
was 100% because of
inspiration struck.
yeah,
Love that.
And it's so
yeah.
funny, like, as you're reading the book, you're like, there's so much other things going on. And then this principal comes in, and you're like, oh my God, this is the last thing she needs is this guy now. Not realizing that is the plot of the book, and you like don't even realize it till later. It's like so good.
Thank you.
So do you find that you have, other like teachers or librarians or anything like that? It's because you're like, you were saying, Adam, like with the board, like it's
Mhm.
difficult. So like what struggles like are
Well,
you
it's
having?
interesting because, like, we can sell the book, at the book fair, like all these kinds of things. But definitely, where I'm at, elected a very conservative board. And it's like we're starting to see those policies get put in place and it's getting harder and harder to teach essentially. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, kids, when they come to me in fifth grade, they're at that precipice, right? Where they could become readers and they could never touch a book again. And
Yes.
getting books like, I feel like books like yours in their hands are the thing that could make them become readers because they can identify with these books. They are scary, they are funny, all those kinds of things. And instead, we have to give them the most bland, boring things. And I think it just kills that spirit and it's painful. So, like, however I can, sideways give it to parents, all that kind of stuff, try to do that. I do everything that I can.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I have gotten so much wonderful support from teachers and librarians. And I mean, I would say that there's been pushback because of like specifically anything that I've written, but there's pushback in general about writing horror for this age group.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like it's inappropriate. And I'm like, it's not inappropriate. Like
No.
kids love horror. Like they love to be scared. And horror is an incredibly versatile venue to like talk about hard things. Like it's really great for that. Like it's easy to talk about grief. I've talked about grief, I've talked about disease, like these
Yeah.
topics that are easy to talk about in and I'm not saying it's not done well in contemporary fiction because it is. There are so many middle grade writers who are writing wonderful stories, but a lot of those stories are tearjerker stories. They are sad stories, and sad stories are great and they're important and they're worthwhile. But I think it's also important to be able to talk about these things where the the concept that you're talking about is not the entire thrust of the story. And horror is great like that. Like horror is just a really convenient and kids they like horror. Like they want to be scared. It's just a fact.
You're right.
Yeah, and I think, so many times, when kids know I really like to read and that kind of thing, they'll say, "Oh, I'm writing this story." And every single time, and I have not told them I'm a horror fan, any of that kind of stuff. Every story is a horror story that these kids are
Yes.
writing because they just
Yep.
love it. Like that
Yep.
that is what they're interested in.
It's interesting. And I think it's also like it's a place for them to work out their own fears too. I mean that's the thing about like middle grade horror. It's like whenever I talk about it, I'm like it's safe scary. It's like a place where you can get scared, but if it becomes too much, you close the book, you put it away, you walk away and it's out of
Mhm.
your life. And when you want to go back to it, you can go back to it. And it's a place to sort through your own feelings about things that scare you. And I just think that that's not something that kids get handed to them outside of horror books very regularly.
Yeah.
It's just I think that we spend a lot of time trying to remind kids that everything's great and everything's going to work out, but they know that that's not always true. And I think that they need a space where they get to see that and, to talk about it and to have those feelings validated, I think is really
Yeah, and I think, as you're saying this, all I'm like in giant lights in my head is this appearing house, and the things and themes and the things that you talk about in it. For me, that was a tearjerker, but not because it was sad, because of how empowering it is. And,
great.
where that character ends up at the end of the book is just such a great story for anyone that's been through adversity in any way, which is going to be pretty much any kid by the time they reach, 11 or 12 years old. And
Exactly.
like this idea, that theme of like, walls don't keep things out, they trap you in, right? And that's the kind of thing of how we put ourselves on these islands when empathy and understanding and all those things are really what's going to get you the things that you want. And I just absolutely love that book for that. And the fact that you tell the truth. It's like bad things are going to happen and they're going to happen to 7-year olds. They're going to happen to 50-year olds. They're going to happen to 90-year olds. It's like what you do with that is what makes you who you are, and everyone gets one life no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that was I mean, obviously, I wrote that book after my cancer diagnosis, so it was really it was important to me to talk about this idea that, like, Jack is no different than anyone else. Like, just because she went through this, like, she gets what everybody else gets. She gets a life, and I think that for me, learning that, having been diagnosed with cancer in my early 40s, it felt like a time bomb. It did.
Yeah.
And to learn that it was not that thing was really important to me, and it made me think about, like, going through that at an even younger age, and a younger age, and a younger age, and how that must play
Mm,
on people's feelings, and it's like it's also, like, that's a really hard thing to talk about with kids. Like,
right.
people don't wanna broach those subjects, and again, this is what books are great at, is that
Yes.
they allow you to talk about the hard things.
Yes. I know Annabelle has a friend who's a close friend of hers, and her mom ended up having a breast cancer diagnosis, and mom shaved her head and, all that stuff. And, they were all really trying to support her, but we didn't have like a tool like that or something to like read through. So I just feel like you're doing good work here.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, I
and
appreciate
within
that.
that, however, is maybe not just middle grade, but any grade book. That might be one of the scariest books I've ever read in my life, Disappearing House. And, I know horror is subjective, but you have at least 2 or 3 things in there that seemed particularly targeted towards me, and I did not appreciate it
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Which things were they?
Was it the
Teeth?
teeth?
Teeth. Okay.
It was
uh,
the teeth.
the mourner in general, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, the I recently have been reading about oubliettes, and I was like, "No, she does
Oh,
not have one in this book."
What is an oubliette?
An oubliette, when you think of a dungeon when they would, like, press a trapdoor and they drop down onto spikes or there was
Yeah,
snake,
yeah.
that's an oubliette, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so the oubliette is also from my childhood trauma of Labyrinth, because there's an oubliette in Labyrinth
Yep,
that
that's in
she
there too, I
finds
forgot
on,
about that.
and as a child, I was like, "What is that?" And it terrified me to my core, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna put this in a book and scare other kids.
Yes,
That'll
and
be fun."
also that moment where, like, and, a lot of things will have it where they're like, "We got away," and then, like, boom, jump scare, no, you didn't. You
Right.
go on for a very long time thinking that it is now safe, and I'm looking at how much is left of the book, and I'm like, "What is she doing?" And then that gotcha moment, I'm like, "Damn it."
did you shit yourself? Is that what you're saying?
I'm glad I was outside, that I could hose down.
Sick.
So,
Lord.
It's to be a compliment if, no
Uh,
one's ever told me that they've shit themselves, so, I'm honored.
I was either gonna say either you shit yourself or did you do your woman scream?
yeah, I definitely did woman scream, or I was just like,
Also a compliment.
I'm glad that I will be talking to her because she needs to know how much you've traumatized me in the best way.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like when you can just have this connection where it's like,
Mhm.
how did they know that I was gonna have such a visceral reaction to this?
And that's the thing is, to ask you is, you said with Labyrinth it was very personal, but the teeth and just the way that the mourner moves and things like that, like, are these things that you're just like, "I bet this is scary," or does it freak you out too?
So the teeth thing doesn't freak me out, but I know it's such an issue for enough people that I was like, "Oh, this will be fun. I'm gonna put this in here." The mourner was a more than once ongoing nightmare that I had.
Oh god.
Yes. So I was like, "Okay, we're gonna exorcise this demon one way or another. I'm gonna
I
put
am
you in a book,
sorry,
and
that
you're
is
not gonna bother me
terrifying.
anymore." What?
This
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
it
an
was
interesting way, Adam, for you to run recognizance to figure out what to send to Allie that's gonna bother her.
No, I would never do
He's just
that.
he's just like asking, like, "Oh, is that what bothered
No,
you?"
no, I just need to know if there's more, like, what's coming next, because I know you got more for us, so
I mean, I for sure do. I for sure
Yeah,
do.
what are you working on
Although
right now?
so right now I just sent my agent, the witch book that I finished,
Say
which
less.
is the witches are not the bad guy. It is about a family of witches.
Great.
And it's very much my little, like, ode to me and my sisters, because I have 2 older siblings, and they are very much in the book, we will say.
That's awesome.
Hopefully they'll appreciate that. But and then so that just went. So that's going to go out on submission soon. And then I am now currently working on a Monsters in the Woods book,
Mm.
which is fun. And then I'm planning for after that my alien invasion book.
Love that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's next time if you go. You've had some moments with aliens.
Yeah.
I think you'll be uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, if Allie's writing it, I'm sure it'll scare the crap out of
Uh-huh.
me in the best way.
I'm looking
I mean,
forward
I
to the
hope so.
I'm looking forward to the witch books.
Yeah.
Like, I have this gorgeous grimoire that was illustrated that I got for myself and my oldest daughter for Christmas last year, and beautiful. I feel like it's a compliment, but she always says, "Mom, you're a kitchen witch. Like, you cook these recipes, but I can feel the love like that you
Mhm.
put into them." And I love cooking for her for that reason. But
It's
it's
so sweet.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I'm fascinated by like witches and like um I've read a bunch by Alex Harrow, and she has the Once and Future Witches, one of my favorite books. And she just it's not like I think she really broke down the concept of like a witch is not what like the lore was. Like it's not even just like spells or anything. It's like oftentimes just like what you're saying and what you're believing, kind of what you're like manifesting, and like the way like it works for things. It's just I don't know. As I dig more in, I'm excited because I pulled a whole spooky season section for myself, and I think over it's like all witch and vampire for the most part.
Mm,
You have
that'll
those
Nice.
be Oh,
part,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
No, that'll be fun.
So I'm like ready to add for whenever you're ready. I'll be adding the witch book that when you're done. Like I can't wait to read it.
Or when it's
That's
out.
awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And the whole concept of it, it's just this idea of this one family in this small town who has been kind of like their mother is like the midwife and the healer, and
Perfect.
like that's how the whole town views her,
Yes.
and until they don't. And then it's when she winds up going missing and her daughters are held accountable
Mm,
that something terrible has happened to her and they're responsible, and basically everyone just turns on them at that point. Like when, after, and it's very much like based upon the way the people in Salem were attacked,
Mm-hmm.
you
yeah.
know, that they anyone who was considered even remotely an outsider
Yeah.
was now dangerous and needed to be put to death. So yeah, I'm really excited for this to find a home and to get out in the world. I think it'll be a good read. I really am really excited about it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, if it was okay to talk about marketing for a second because of a thread that I saw you post. And when we started this podcast, I kind of wasn't sure how it was going to work in order to even ask people to be a guest. And when I saw your response to someone that was basically like, unless you're a really like high level bestseller, author, like on the Stephen King level, the marketing support just isn't there. And, I'm thinking like things like what we're doing here, I would have thought, oh, we have to go through publicists and all these different kinds of things. And authors just like, no, I'll do it. And seeing you say that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And it's crazy, we think of writers historically as being very introverted and that kind of stuff, but it sounds like you have to be your own marketing team.
Yeah, yeah, no, we have to be out here hustling, like,
Yeah.
all the time, which is not easy
Yeah.
because I am very introverted. I mean, I love doing things like this, I love podcasts because I love talking to people about books, but, like, events, the amount of, like, deep breathing I had to do to get out of the hotel room at
Mm,
Stoker to, like, go be on a panel,
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot, and, I love my editor, and I love my publisher, I do, but, yeah, the fact of the matter is, unless you are making them money,
Hmm.
it's not a priority. So if you want to get, and it's especially hard, for middle grade because it's like I can't get to my audience. Like, I can't social media to kids.
Right.
Like I have to get into classrooms to do that, which is not always easy to do.
Mhm.
So it's like I can't speak directly to my actual audience. I have to talk to the people around my audience, people like teachers and librarians, which have been again incredibly supportive and absolutely super helpful, but it's still a wall, it's still hard to get through. Yeah, it's the marketing aspect. I truly, before I was published on HarperCollins, I've written a lot of poetry, so I published with small presses. And, I always had to do my own marketing for things like that. And I really believed like once I wound up on a major press, it was going to be different. And it is not different at all.
Mm,
And that was, a little hard to get used to,
yeah.
initially. Like it was a little surprising and disappointing. And again, my editor is wonderful, but you don't get a marketing person unless you are already established. And I don't know how to get established enough without a marketing person to be
Yeah.
able to get a marketing person. Like
Yeah.
it's a catch 22.
Like
So
you need ID to get ID. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Like
She's
I
got
can't
Stephen King blurb in her books. Help this woman.
I
Well,
mean, listen, I
yeah.
would have thought it would have.
Well, it's gotta be one
But
of those things where it's like you think, there's this promised land of being published by a big 5,
yes.
publisher,
Yes.
and then you're there and you're like,
Uh-huh.
the only
Yeah.
difference is what's on the spine now, right? Like, that's
Yes.
gotta be
Yeah,
it
I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing to walk into a Barnes& and Noble and see
and
my
see
books on
it,
the shelf.
yeah.
And it's amazing to walk into an independent bookstore and see my books on the shelf.
Mhm.
Like that, every time it happens, my heart explodes again, and I can't believe that this dream I've had since I was 8 years old, like, has come true, and
Yeah,
I am doing
Amazing.
this thing that I've always wanted to do. But it is really all on your shoulders.
yeah,
And that was shocking to discover when I did. I think, the great thing about it is that it's the case for everyone. So it's really great to know other authors because
right.
we will prop each other up. Like that's what we do. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
we scream about each other's books. We get excited. We do panels together.
mhm,
We talk about each other's work, and it forms a really, really powerful, really great community.
yeah.
And I'm honored to be a part of it. Honestly.
I know when we talked to another Allie Russell, she talked
Oh
about
yeah, I love that.
having like a Facebook group basically of middle grade
Yep,
horror authors where,
yep. We sure do. I
and
am in that
so
group. It's a wonderful group of
oh,
people.
that's great.
And,
So, yeah.
it's great because, like, things like, like when the cover reveal for Broken Dolls came out, I went to that group and I was like, guys, cover reveal is going to be on Tuesday. If anyone has a chance to like retweet or post. And like, that's how it happens. Like, that's how these things get shared is because people take the time to back each other up. And it's really wonderful because we're all very much in the same boat. And it's even like, I have conversations with like people I consider to be much bigger name authors. Like I was talking to Delilah Dawson about this,
Mhm.
and she's in the same position where she's like, I've got to hype up my stuff. And I'm like, it's
Well,
crazy that
yeah,
you're
I
not
saw
getting the value.
her make a post that's like, "Hey, any bookstores want me to come?" And I'm like,
Yep.
"Delilah Dawson has to do like,
Yep.
it's just
Exactly.
shocking."
That is the exact like that was my reaction. I was like, Delilah Dawson has to ask to get into bookstores. Like
Yeah.
what is this world? Yeah.
Yeah, that's and, that made me think when you were talking about how hard it is to get into a classroom or to talk to your reader. Does that feel? Because I think, events like Stoker and those kinds of things, when you're there, it's adults, right? Like,
Yes.
how do you find yourself connecting or seeing what the targeted audience is feeling about your books?
Well, I mean, for the obviously like being in a classroom setting is ideal because then I'm
Mhm.
talking to my actual readers. But the great thing about something like Stoker, like so up until just a few years ago, Stoker didn't even have a middle grade category.
Mm.
Wasn't a thing that they gave an award to. There was only YA and then it was all adult. And then they made the middle grade category and a bunch of middle grade writers came and we did panels and most of the people who were asking questions were teachers.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. Like, this is how I can connect with you guys because you know that we're here and you will come to these panels. And I know that you're asking these questions because you want to get authors into the classroom. And it also was made a lot harder because of 2020,
Mhm.
because of lockdown and with COVID, like, it was great to do online stuff, but that's what everybody was doing. Like
Right.
being able to go into the classroom and like sit and talk to kids face to face is like really the ideal. And it's the hardest thing to make happen. Know that if you have a teacher in your class, I mean, if you have a writer in your classroom, they're thrilled to be there.
Well, that's good to know because I'm always, when we're in a position which I'm thinking and hoping we will be in the coming years because of certain reactions to what's happening right now.
Mhm.
I hope to, I think that my initial reaction is always like, oh, do I ask? Like, is that going to be weird? So to hear you say that,
No,
it
it
gives me
will not be weird
confidence
at
that
all.
when I'm in that position, I
Yes.
definitely will.
Yes, yes, please do, because it will not be weird at all. They won't be like, "Oh, I don't have time to go to your classroom." No, trust me, they'll be thrilled. Yeah.
That's great. And, you know, looking forward next year, the year after, whenever that you're going to be back at all these events and we'll be able to see you in person and that will be wonderful for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. I certainly hope so.
All right. So Broken Dolls is out when and where can we find you? All that kind of stuff.
Okay, so Broken Dolls is out September 30th, so little over a month from now, which is crazy. I'm really excited for it to be in the world, but also low key terrified, which I am with every book release. It's like this is great, and also the worst thing that's ever happened to me. What
Sure. Yeah.
and I am on all the social places. I'm on Instagram. I'm still on Twitter. God knows why.
Mhm.
Blue Sky, and it's all at Ali Malinenko is my handle everywhere.
Perfect.
And I'm
Well,
mostly talking about books.
love that. And I will tell you that we have to get a lot of things approved, but one thing we don't have to get approved is our read aloud books. So I will be reading my class Broken Dolls as soon as I can get a copy of it and I will let you know how terrified they are.
Love to. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, it was an absolute pleasure. We are so thankful that you agreed to be here and we look forward to seeing everything that you have coming out. Can't wait for the witch book and everything else. And just thank you again. Hope you have a
Yeah.
great rest
Thank
of
you
your
so
day.
much.
Oh, thank you guys. It was great talking to you both.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.